Welcome back to The Messier the Better. Today's episode, shame. As I am working with so many different clients throughout my career, there is a constant theme that keeps coming up that I think is so pivotal to really every sort of mental health deficiency that we may have, whether it's emotional, it's relational, it's something in our thinking or cognition. And what it does to us is it absolutely changes our behavior because shame melts the absolute core and center of who we are. So here we go. Take a deep breath because I know this may connect with you, and it also may connect if you're a parent with what you're seeing in your kids. So hold on to this a bit because shame is again something that we do not want to foster in our kids. In fact, shame is the opposite of resilience. Shame is what's going to keep us out of the space of really believing in ourselves and trying new things and also overcoming obstacles and difficulties. So, what is shame? Shame is a word in our culture that we really don't know the meaning of because it gets confused a lot of times with the word guilt. Guilt and shame are two completely different things. Here's the example. When I do something that may not be the best, I am going to feel something inside of myself. Hopefully. If not, we have whole different podcast on psychopathology. So when I do something that I don't feel good about, hopefully I feel guilt. Guilt is I have done something that does not feel good to me and I need to make amends, rectify it, repair it, never do it again. And I am learning. Guilt is a very good thing because it actually sets us on a course to be more fully ourselves. Guilt is part of our moral compass. It's what's given to us by our families. And we can talk about inappropriate guilt in another episode. But guilt is something that we learn within our family system, within our cultural system, within our social systems that we grow up in. And guilt, when it supports good, and I'm going to put air quotes around good because really we're going to switch it to say healthy behaviors, then we can use guilt as a way to learn about ourselves. Here's shame. Shame says, I have done something bad. I am bad. Let me say that again. I've done something that I'm not proud of, so I'm a loser. I suck. I'm so bad. I can't believe I did that. I always do that. I can't believe they'd ever want to be around me because I am not good. Shame becomes a definition of me. Shame starts defining my identity. Shame starts limiting my identity formation or my identity development. Shame is going to tell me all the things that I am negatively, and it's going to also tell me all the things I'm not in comparison to other people who are doing better. Shame infects, and it starts small and it grows really rapidly. Because if I believe I'm not, and fill in the blank, good, and I'm going to keep it really simple with the word good. If I'm not good, period, then I'm not good when I show up for my relationship. I'm not good when I show up for my job. I'm not good when I show up for my friends. I'm not good when I show up for my family or my children. I'm not good. And when I believe wholeheartedly that I'm not good, it's going to change the way that I interact in all these different spaces. And it's going to absolutely erode who I am so I don't fully show up. Shame says you can't validate yourself until somebody else validates you. Sound familiar? Shame also says you can't do anything right, so chase perfection. Because if you're perfect, then you've proven in that moment that you're good enough. Doesn't sound like setting you up for failure, does it? No, not at all. Because perfection clearly is a healthy goal for humanity. So shame starts dictating who we are, and then it infects everything. So let's take a look at this. Are we born with shame? The weird thing is when you look at your 1-year-old or 2-year-old or even 3-year-old, they're like, here I am. I'm going to show up exactly like I was meant to be. And they interact in their environment with true emotions and true behaviors and true thoughts about themselves. They don't know how to trick themselves into thinking they're bad. Kind of between 2 and 3, if you start seeing shame come up, you'll start seeing it in your child's behavior, which again, you can correct. You can still really nurture that piece. But when we're born, no infant, no 1-year-old says, I'm bad. But where we get shame usually is from the family system. In this family system that you grow up, we call it your childhood home, we call the family of origin. So that family of origin can be your biological family. It can be people who were around you often. Primary caretakers is what we call them. It can be from parents to grandparents, aunts and uncles, babysitters, even daycare workers. It can be anybody who is highly influential around you. And that shame message can be internalized really early on. But nobody is born with it. We are nurtured into shame. And let me strike that. We are actually indoctrinated with shame. And usually, if it's from our parents either have really high expectations for themselves, therefore they have high expectations for us, or our parents don't know where they end and we begin. And so what we do reflects on them. And so there's a lot of pressure there. Or we have parents who really don't care and who aren't careful with their words and dismiss us, neglect us, abuse us. And then that tells us we're not good. And it's not true. It's not a true message. But many children create that shame message way back when in childhood. So if you wanted to see the inception of your shame, I would challenge you to go absolutely as far back as you can in your memory to try to recall when it was, what age you were at, when you started to have these shame thoughts. I'm not good. I'm not good enough. They're better. I need to be perfect. I'm just going to go away. You don't want to be friends with me. And you start negating all these really great things around you. And so what it does to us is that erosion of what we call a sense of self. Sense of self is how I feel my identity. I'm going to take you back to childhood. If you looked at kids around you, there are some kids that are like super confident. They will try anything. They're just kind of in the moment and playing and enjoying their life. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not hardships for them, but they're doing it with a really intact, what we call ego. The sense of self, or who I feel myself to be, confident, not arrogant, confident. Confident says I can do hard things even if I'm not good at them. But when you start working from a shame base when younger, you're going to start being really hesitant. You might feel really anxious. You might shy away from things that don't feel comfortable. And then we have the other side of shame that gets really rebellious. And that shame says, you don't think I'm good anyways, so why not misbehave? It doesn't matter. In the principal's office all the time. It's okay. It's going to happen anyway. I'm not good. And you start creating your own self-sabotage. And you just sabotage yourself over and over and over again because it's what you know. It's what you know. It's what is familiar. The nervous system doesn't necessarily want different. It wants familiar. And so when we get into these grooves in behaviors and it's what's familiar, we would actually prefer it, even though it's unhealthy, we would prefer it than to something that is healthy and different. And so when you look at kids, it's really super obvious because kids are as they behave. Kids are as they appear. Kids do not have a lot of filter unless they get to about age 6, 7, 8. If they are more protective of themselves because they have to be, you're going to start seeing it younger. But most of the time it's 6, 7, 8, somewhere between first and third grade, fourth grade, somewhere in there. And then we hit puberty. And again, we've got massive brain developing. And again, we have massive brain development. And again, we have massive brain development happening between about 13 and 16 years old. And so there's another thing, there's another time period in our lives when behavior does speak volumes. Shame can also be seen in our teens, and we're seeing it across the board. I just want to encourage you to look at this piece. So why is it important that we look at shame? Because contentment and peace and life satisfaction overall comes when we give ourselves permission to be ourselves, when we love and appreciate who we are, when we can believe ourselves, when we give ourselves encouragement, and therefore also believe other people when they give us compliments. The compliments that say, oh no, that's not me. No, the compliment that says, thank you so much. I really appreciate you seeing that in me. That's amazing. And what shame does is build a wall and not allow anything good to come over that wall because I just don't believe it. I just don't believe your compliment. I don't believe your encouragement. And so in that space, shame is so important to tackle. And we're going to do it slowly over the next couple podcasts because it is deep and it's going to take you deep. But when we get deep into these messages that are below the surface, we get to challenge the roots. We're not just pulling the weeds and leaving the roots there because we all know what's going to happen. The weed's going to grow back. So again, we're going to get down to that root. We're going to dig it out. We're going to pull it out and we're going to toss it, but then we're going to replace it with a healthy plant. And we're going to replace it with a seed that's going to grow. And that seed not only is going to grow above the ground, it's also going to grow below the ground. And our hope here, when we really dive in, whether you're doing it with your therapist or you're doing it just on your own, searching out helps here on YouTube, Instagram, anywhere that you are just gleaning information, I want you to know it's so worth it because when we get down as individuals and we actually look at that root, that's when lifelong change happens. This is when the goodness now takes over the infection of shame, and the goodness of what I believe of myself. It absolutely changes everything. More confidence, less anxiety, more calm, more trust in yourself, more contentment within yourself. And it will change the way you see other people. It will change the way you make decisions. It will change the way you choose what to be a part of, what to say yes to, what to say no to, who to say yes to, who to say no to. It will absolutely support who you are. And I'm so excited that you're here. I say that at the end of every podcast because I know it's not difficult and I also value your time. So today, as you're thinking about shame and this shame messaging and what those messages can sound like for you, jot them down. It's not a bad thing to put down, these are the shame messages that keep coming back. I'm not good enough. I'll never do it right. Why even try? It is what it is. I really want you to sit down and look at those messages, because when you do, now we can start looking at where they came from. And then we can start to challenge them. We got to understand them before we can change them. If you start changing things without understanding, quite honestly, you're just throwing things at the wall, hoping it will make a difference. But if you understand what it is and where it came from, then how you change it actually is more strategic and successful. That's what we're after here. The messier, the better. It is messy. Life is messy. But when we become better internally, the mess is not as overwhelming. I can't change all these things around me, but I absolutely can change me and my understanding of myself. And then I show up for the things outside of me that might be messy, or maybe they're not that messy. But if I have a message of shame, really filtering out what's happening on this side, it might feel way more messy because I don't believe in myself. So let's tackle this together. I am, again, excited that you're here. Thank you so much for being here. Please like, subscribe, follow for more content. Again, coming at you with a couple of different episodes on shame, because this is deep. And if we change this messaging, not only do we change ourselves, we change the way we show up for other people. And if you have children, you are changing the way that you are going to parent. And when you change the way you parent, the exciting thing is that you are changing your children for when they have children. And this is how you change generational trauma and generational dysfunction to generational health and function. Super exciting. This is about you, but it's also about your legacy. Come back for more. Thanks for being here. We'll talk soon.